Hello and welcome to episode 3 of Ellie Asks. Today I'm joined by the amazing Claire with her gorgeous purple hair, which is exactly the colour that I wanted to have, but it's not really stayed. So she's given me some tips before we started recording. She gave me some tips on how to keep the gorgeous purple. So I'll be taking that away with me definitely. I met Claire through our business coach, another Claire, and I just said before we recorded, I was like, you can introduce yourself much better than I can because I still don't really get it much. and because it's just amazing, but it's something that requires your personal touch to really explain all about you and what it is you do. So I'll pass over to Claire to introduce herself a little bit more. Over to you.
Thank you, Ellie. Yeah, it's a bit out there. It's not the everyday norm. So I guess my lovely clients have actually dubbed me the mystical mentor. So basically what that is, I started off with tarot cards and realised that it was more than just a fortune reading. It was more of a way of maybe coaching and helping others through their issues that they have today, but through tarot. I've always been connected with spirit and the energies and the universe and beyond. Not everyone kind of gets it, but yeah, I've had it since I was a child. And yeah, I've had it since I was a child. I've always had past family members who have gone, who I never actually met, come and visit me, and it's all been a bit quirky and a bit weird. But yeah, then I thought, why not try a little bit more and help people? So I've done healings, so I do energy healings and coaching through with my cards and my healings and meditations. So it's all a little bit out there, all a little bit magical, but it's something that really helped me in my trials and tribulations of life. So I thought, why not put it out there and see if it helps others? And now through Claire, the lovely lady that we met, our business coach, I have now made it into a beautiful, magical business. Yeah, it's gorgeous, and who knows where it's going to end up. But yeah, it's all a bit magical.
Very successful, actually. You know, you resigned from your job and then loads more money and helped other people so much more.
It's crazy because I've been in education like yourself for most of my adult life, mostly day nurseries, playgroups, and as a TA in mainstream. And although I loved working with children, the kind of playground politics wasn't my kind of thing, and I was getting a little bit stressed about it, so I had to step away. And then I found myself selling bricks to really grumpy builders. So I don't know how that happened, but yeah, it just wasn't lighting me up. It wasn't what I wanted to do in life. And yeah, then I just started my hobby as it was, and it's turned into a gorgeous, successful global business, which is a bit crazy actually. But yeah, I've got clients now all over the world, which is beautiful. Yeah. Never thought I'd accomplish this, but yeah, here I am.
Amazing. Well, that in itself is like a podcast conversation anyway, isn't it? You know, actually having the guts, very similar to me resigning and having the guts to just jump in with 2 feet and go, I'm giving this a whirl. And actually you're the shining example of the fact that if you take a risk and go for it and take the shot, that, you know, look what, you know, you just said yourself, I can't believe it. I didn't expect it to be like this, but wow, you know, look what you do actually.
You're following your heart, you're following your passion, and the lovely thing is life is good because you're doing what you love, and because you wake up every day not knowing what you're going to do, but it's exciting because you know it's following your heart and it's your passion, and you're meeting so many beautiful people. And it's not a 9 to 5. You can choose your own hours. So you've got your friends and family to round. Like I said, after you, I'm meeting my mum for lunch that I do every Wednesday after this, which is absolutely gorgeous. And it's lovely to be your own boss, doing something you absolutely love. And you've got the perfect clients. You're not forcing those clients to come on you. They find you, they see you, they love what you do, and you love what you do. So it's perfect. It's a lovely way to live.
Totally win-win. Ace, right. So, and also the the question that Claire's chosen is just brilliant. And I think this might be quite challenging for some people to listening to go, oh, okay, what would I say to this? So something like I said on the previous episode, you know, some of this might resonate, but again, we're just two people with two completely different lives and probably completely different to the listeners as well. So it's about how this works for you and having that. And this, the whole point of Ellie Asks is to give you some space and time, whatever you are doing whilst you're listening to this podcast. I often listen when I go for a run or when I'm walking. So it gives me the time and space to really think about and have some me time and think about me. So Claire's question, it's actually a two-parter, is how have I become me and what am I like? So having a look back and thinking about those positive and negative parts, those chapters within the book of life, if you want to use that analogy, and how they have shaped the person you are. So I'm really interested to find out how you've become you currently and what you're like. I have a little bit of an inkling of what you're like. But the backstory is going to be really interesting. So yeah, fire away.
So yeah, I started, it all started when I was young. I was that over emotional child, that oversensitive child, the one that would cry on a heartbeat, sometimes not even knowing why. So I was never really, not accepted into social, but people kind of a bit wary of me because I was going to cry. Wherever I'd go, I'd cry. So if I was in a party, I'd get overwhelmed. I wasn't a big, even though I loved being with people and playing, social occasions, even from a youngster, didn't really appeal to me. Parties wasn't my kind of thing that I'd really love. I was never the person who felt comfortable with a huge bunch of kids. I was either in my bedroom or with one or two selective friends. But yeah, it started from there. But as a child, I completely and utterly believed in fairies, completely and utterly believed in any kind of magic like Father Christmas. I embraced it, like most children, I guess. But I used to make potions in my little bedroom with talcum powder and perfumes I used to find and rose petals. And I used to
say rose petals from the garden, yeah.
Yeah, I used to pick it all up. I used to love. My gran had a mud kitchen at the back of her house, which was literally like an old stove that she had that she put out there. And I spent hours creating these mud concoctions with all these weird and wonderful things. And I guess it started from there, but I used to have imaginary friends that I believed in that other people couldn't see. And it turned out to be people who passed away and I could still talk to them. So I was always a little bit weird and wonderful. But then when I was growing older and I was told you can't keep on being this out there, you've got to, you know, there's no such thing as fairies, there's no such thing as magic, there's no such thing as what you're seeing and you're hearing. Claire, come on, you've got to, you know, you've got to get to it, stop the daydreaming, stop being so airy fairy. And funnily enough, that when I first started coming out and dyed my hair purple and being me, my first company, I called it Airy Fairy. Because I was told you can't be airy fairy, stop being in the clouds and come back down. And I was miserable. I was a miserable child. So I tried to be happy for people, but it was all like a mask putting on, and I wasn't comfortable. I didn't know who I was. I didn't know what to trust. It just felt a little bit empty and a bit sad, to be honest. And then
other people's, but it sounds like a lot that other people's beliefs around things were pushed onto you, and you had to change your behaviour based on what people think. And I'm just wondering, for the listeners out there, when they were growing up, what beliefs had been pushed onto them from parents or from adults around them, or or peers, about how they behaved, and actually, no, that's not how you do it, and even as simple as things like beliefs around, I was always told to finish what's on your plate, so, and then that's a really sort of real surface level one, but having a think maybe about when you were growing up, what was happening for you and what were people saying to you. So it's very obvious to you, Claire. I think sometimes they're not as obvious, for people, but it really impacts on how you then live your life and then into adulthood, and then carry on with this, oh, I can't do this, or I can't do this, I can't possibly do this because my mum and dad or somebody within the family said, no, that's not right. But so having a think, for the listeners, I just want them to have a think about, is there anything that they're still holding on those beliefs that actually, no, that's not working for me. Sorry to interrupt, carry on.
No, that's okay. It's definitely, childhood was definitely definitely a sensitive one, especially my brother. He was all action, all doing, all being. He was the popular kid. He was brainy. He was active. He was in all the sports. He was, you know, he was out there. And I was the quiet one, reserved one in the house, because I was better with my own company than I was with other people. I didn't understand the rules of social engagement. I didn't get it. I didn't understand.
Who's made the rules? Who made the rules? Obviously, that's just rules based on our culture or our society, or that actually, if you like your own company, that's a bit weird. Almost like that you're seeing that child who's quite happy to play on their own. People worry about that rather than just going, that's their person. Because actually, as adults, how many times do you go, I just want to have some time on my own. I want some space to be me. And so our society has decided that a child who likes to play on their own or isn't that sociable, there's something wrong. And I'm not sure that's the case.
Yeah, my family kind of left. My mum, bless her, she had 3 jobs, so she was busy a lot of the time. My dad, as much as I loved him, and he was a lovely guy, but he did like his drink and he did like going out and being social himself. So he wasn't, you know, in the house very often. So I was kind of left to it. I was left to it, and it was, you know, I was fine with that. But yeah, it was definitely maybe teachers, peers around me, friends, and they knew that, or people in my year group in school or in the estate that I used to live in, where everybody used to play fox and hounds, the whole estate, the whole kids used to come together. I used to kind of settle off and just go back to my house and read and draw or listen to music or something a bit more quieter, and or daydream about this, that and the other, which now I understand was meditating, but I didn't realise that it was back then. Yeah, so school was a bit difficult, but yeah, going through it, I started finding people who liked the quirky me and used to tell people, oh, Claire, she's lovely, she's really funny. And even my mum turned around and like, what, Claire, funny? Claire's not really a humorous one, she's the quiet one, you know? And I was like, what, you think I'm funny? Really? Why? How? Because it wasn't something that I was the quiet one. I wasn't the one who used to show, you know, my true self.
So that's what you've not, so that's not the lines that you'd been told, almost like from family and friends, that actually you're the quiet one, therefore you're in this box, you know, and almost like it. How did it feel when people said you were the funny one? Was it a bit of disbelief, as in, oh no, that's not me, or yeah, I am actually?
Well, no, it was a teacher that first said that to my mum on a parents' evening. She was a bit wacky. She was a substitute teacher, and she said, oh, I love Claire, she's great fun. My mother was like, that's not normally what teachers say about my daughter. Do you know what I mean? I was normally the one that would try their hardest. I was the one that would have certificates for good effort. but yeah, never attainment. So, and I just floated, and that's how my life was. But then growing up in my late teens, I struggled because of, you know, I wasn't a social one. So unfortunately, I did drink too much, I did party too much, I did take illegal substances too much, because I didn't like the everyday now, and I wanted to escape that all the time, and I didn't want to have the real world. And that's when I became pregnant when I was younger. I was 19 being pregnant, single mum before I was 21.
What was so bad about the real world? What was it about the real world that you didn't like?
The rules, the having to act a certain way. I still now don't listen to the news. I still don't like the drama or the gossip. I like to stay away. So real life was all about drama. Real life was all about people. Where I was living anyway, it was a struggle. And yeah, you work hard for not much money, and then you play hard and you spend all your money. And that's how it was growing up. It was, you don't save, it was, you don't know when life's going to end, so life's a bitch, we'll deal with it. It was kind of, you know, and I didn't like that. I didn't like that at all. I like to daydream. I like to think of something better, and I didn't like the drama.
So it was almost like that you were, like I said before, you know, you're put in this box, and actually as a young teen and into your later teens, that you were like, well, I don't fit into this box, or I don't fit into this round, you know, peg or whatever in a square hole. And so it made you struggle, rather than you seeing that maybe there is something out there. And I'm just wondering how many parents and have said, what lines do they feed to their children? You know, and I've had, like, my eldest is 5, and I have said, she falls over all the time, and I've previously said, oh, you're so clumsy, you're so clumsy. And I've really had to stop myself, because I'm feeding her, you know, does she become clumsy because I've said that she is clumsy and she started calling herself clumsy? So I've stopped that now. I'm thinking, I'm creating something for her that might not necessarily be true. She's not necessarily clumsy. Like she said to me the other day, I said, oh, will you help me bring the shopping in? She said, don't give me the eggs though, because I'm really clumsy. So just exactly, how awful. And I was like, no, you can take the eggs. And she took the eggs and she was fine. But so I'm just wondering, how, as parents, if you're listening to it, what lines are we feeding? What messages are we giving to our children as they grow up? You're this, you're that, you're the quiet one, you're the funny one. You know, are we labeling our children with things that aren't necessarily true? Or can we not let them just be? Because I'm just wondering if you'd just been able to be and carry on believing in fairies and carried on making your potions and things, that by the time it got to your late teens, that you might not have struggled so much because of that you didn't fit into this box. And I wonder, like, you know, that culture, that mini culture that you had on your estate of you work hard but you play hard, almost, and correct me if I'm wrong if this isn't it, almost made you feel like you were wrong for feeling different.
Yeah, it was where I was. I mean, I'm still friends with a lot of people where I grew up with, but there wasn't that much to aspire to where I was living. There wasn't that many people that used to go to university or used to go on, or definitely wouldn't move out of the area, you know. So when I felt, I mean, I was in an abusive relationship with my daughter's father. And even after I split up with him, it was still, you know, still not great. He was still trying to control. So I had the opportunity to move to Buckinghamshire, from Swansea to Buckinghamshire. But that was a total shock for people in my village, because, like, why are you moving? I mean, not just down the road, you were moving to a different part of the country. And it was good for me. It was a good fresh start. And people didn't really get me, because I was a very young mum who was quite colourful and quite, I was allowed to be quite bubbly, and it was lovely. But at the same time, the mums in my daughter's school were probably my mother's age.
Right.
So again, I found it hard to fit in, but I started being more me in a quiet kind of way. So I started playing with my cards and start doing what I wanted to do, because I was left alone and no one really knew me, and it was fine. And I eventually met my now husband, who was also Welsh, but he was down that area as well, and he got me. And even though he's very black and white and analytical, he believed in ghosts, and he believed in something else, but he wouldn't outwardly kind of go, this is me. And he's coaxed that out of me, and he's kind of gone, you know, there's something in there, so tell me what you do. And I don't do it to me though, but tell me what you do. You know. No, yeah, I've been allowed, not allowed, loud's a long word, but I guess that's how I feel. I've been allowed to grow
and break out of that you were squeezed into.
Definitely.
When you moved, and you mentioned like fresh start and stuff like that, was it a complete, like, I can just be now? Did it feel like a weight? Was it like, I don't need to be in that box anymore? There's less judgment around it. I can just, Did you see if you could find your tribe there?
Yeah, I was hoping to, but I wasn't expecting the complete different way of life there. So where I was, it was very low working class, people struggling either on very low incomes or on benefits. Life was a struggle. To then, but very colourful and very kind of very drama and very, you know, high vibe. But then I'm very close-minded as well, so that people knew everyone's businesses, and you know, they knew about your next door neighbours, uncles, mothers, you know, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But when I moved to Buckinghamshire, in a little village called Chalfont St Peter, it was a completely different area, and it was very middle class. It was very blue collar worker. The mums had their life, they did their careers, they all went to university, and then they had their children in their 40s, late 30s, early 40s, and that was completely different for me. So again, it was a struggle to find my friends, and I kind of hit a low when I got there. Well, a couple of years after that, I hit a low, and I got depression, and I had anxiety, and because I was lost, I was completely lost. I didn't belong to where I was from, and I didn't belong in, just didn't know who I was, what I was, and what to do. Yeah, and it was a massive challenge. But Phil, I met him when Alex was 8, and he helped me through this. He was good as gold, and he was like, you got this, you can do this, it's okay. If you need to stay in bed, but let's get up in the evening and we'll chat, and we'll talk about it.
Do you I'm just interested in that word belonging. Do you feel that's a really key word about that you need to belong, or has that changed as you've got older?
Yeah. Now, funnily enough, because I've moved back to Swansea, I feel now I belong here. But I am not the same Clare now than I was when I first moved back years ago. Because I'm comfortable with me now. I know who I am. I'm comfortable with my journey of how I got here. I've struggled. I've done the ups and I've done the downs. And I wasn't content in just taking the tablets that the doctor gave me and just coasting it. Counselling wasn't for me. I just felt like they were digging down deep to my roots, bringing it all up, and kind of go, fantastic, you've done really well for this session. So next session, we'll pick it up where we left. And I was a bit of a mess. I was like, I got to go to work now. How am I supposed to go to work? Kind of like, you know. And
I've done a jack in the box, wound it all up, so it's all popped, and then you're like, oh, I can't get this back in again. Or what do I do with all this stuff? Yeah.
Yeah, completely vulnerable, completely bare, emotions to the top. And yeah, I just thought, right, counselling's not for me. It's not, but there has to be a different way. I wasn't content on being miserable. I wasn't content on just being labelled as depressed. You know, even though, I mean, a doctor actually said, actually, we can sign you off work, that's fine, because you've got depression. And I was like, yeah, but I don't want that just to be me, because that's not the life I want. I want the Technicolor kind of stuff that I wanted before.
Do you feel like another label?
Yeah, I was depressed. That was my label. I was depressed.
There's no Clare, depressed Clare, almost like who comes before your name. Like, I've got this other label now. I've had this label. She's the quiet one. She's the airy fairy one. She's the, you know, what? I don't want another label. I want to be something else.
No. And because my family always accepted or kind of put me in another box, saying I was the emotional one, and I don't say anything to don't press Clare's buttons, because she's the one that's going to explode and freak out and kind of have the emotional, oh, Clare's off again, oh, here she goes again, you know. It was that kind of thing. So
interesting. Yeah, so it's interesting that people can't, that they couldn't cope with your emotions. It's really interesting. And when I talk about emotions, I mean probably when you talk about, because when people say emotions, because actually they don't, not really meaning joy and excitement and stuff like that, oh, you're emotional, actually you cry a lot of the time. And I think people can't cope with that because it bubbles up in themselves. Like I had a a coaching client who said, oh, I was crying, I went in the other room so my children didn't see. And I was like, well, and that's interesting. Why, you know, we talked about around that, because I said, would you go in the other room if you were excited or joyful, you know? And she was like, oh no. And I said, do they, you know, is it a case that you don't want them to see that people have these varying emotions? I was very aware of my emotions. And it's not until I had coaching myself that I realised, because I thought, oh, I cry all the time, I'm such a crier, you know, wear my heart on my sleeve and just cry at anything. But actually I realised through coaching that the only times I really cry is when I feel really, really passionate about something and something really matters to me, something or someone really matters to me. And that's how I feel the world, you know, at a different level to some other people. But it's not that I just dissolve into tears over anything, you know, I knock over a coffee and I cry. No, that's not how it works. Actually, from coaching, I realised that I cry because I'm passionate about it. And since working that out, crying is not something that I'm ashamed of. You know, I used to be quite ashamed of, you know, and I'd be like, oh, I'm really sorry for it, you know, I'm sorry. But I just call it now and I just say, I'm going to cry. I feel really emotional now. I feel like I'm going to cry, but that's because this or X, Y, and Z means so much to me, or this is what I've got invested in, or that person I really care about. And there's no apology there anymore.
No.
So I think anyone listening go, oh, I'm a crier, but actually find out the root of the times that you cry. Look back and think, when do I cry and for what reasons? And then pull on those and actually, and I would imagine, like you and I, that it's not coming from a place of, I just can't cope, I'm just going to cry at anything, after the milk, I've done it.
My main cause of crying was when people put me in that box and then outwardly said, this is who you are. And it was more frustration for me than anything else. But because I was scared of saying my truth, I'd just cry. Because I didn't know what my truth was at that point. I didn't know who I was at that point, but I knew who I wasn't, you know, and that was the thing. And it was finding out who I was, not what everybody else thinks Claire is, but who I actually was. And everybody knew I was the girl with a heart of gold and will do anything for you and any of that. But it just all felt a little bit soft and wishy-washy and kind of, you know, blasé. And I think, and I knew I wasn't blasé, I knew I wasn't wishy-washy, but who was I? And it was only when I decided that tablets have definitely have its place, and I will not knock antidepressants whatsoever, because they actually helped me get over a really tough time in my life. But I didn't want to be on them for life when the doctors were prepared to put me on them for life. And everybody else who I knew who were taking them are on them for life. And I was like, no, no, this is not a crutch. This is a step up. This is a step up to get me healthy again.
Yeah.
And I didn't know what to do, how to go about it. But then when I opened my local paper that day, I saw a lovely old lady down the road who was offering meditations for £5. And I was like, I used to do this when I was a kid. And it was only then I realised that my daydreaming when I was a kid was actually, I can do this. This is something I used to do all the time. Yes, bit of guidance on how to do it properly would be great. And when I met her, she was a lovely lady, a little bit out there. And when she opened the door, she went, oh, it's you. And I was like, hi.
Yeah.
Now, it wasn't the purple hair Claire, it was the very brunette kind of, you know, baggy jumper kind of hide yourself Claire still at that point. Working in childcare, turning up for work, being the all mother and then coming home and all the rest of it. And she went, my guides told me you were going to turn up at my door, and I was expecting, I was like, guides? What do you mean? What are you talking about? So we did a meditation then to meet my spirit guide. And my spirit guide came Technicolor straight away to come and go, oh yeah, all right, I'm Robert. And I was like, just as real as you are today, he was there. I closed my eyes and he was there. He was like, I have been waiting so long for you to come. So long. So we've got so much work to do, so let's start. And I was like, oh, wow. Right, okay. And I have to be honest, my spirit guide's a little bit hunky. Can't got to put that there, you know, he's quite good looking. So I'm not too upset that, I know, he's a bit gorgeous. Bit of a bit of a beef muffin. So I was so excited when I came out of meditation, and she said, so how was that? Was it okay? Don't worry if you didn't sense anything. And I said, oh, I did. His name's Robert, and he's Scottish, and he's been waiting around for me forever, and he's got a beard, and he's got long dark hair, and you know, he's quite tribal. And she's like, oh no, that's not right. I was like, oh,
not again. Put in a box.
Yeah, and she said, no, I've been meditating for 30 years, and that you can't do that the first time round. So I was terrified. So she made me go up there again. I say up the stairs because that's what I have to do. Go up there, close the door on him, throw him through the door because he could be dangerous. Who have I let through? And I was like, oh my God, I was a wreck, absolute wreck. And then really weird things started happening to me. Really weird people were coming to see me. I used to have a little stall in a village hall on a Friday, and literally a few days later, this guy, this village weirdo, he was a medium, right? But he's lovely, we're still friends now. And he said, oh, I had a meditation and I was told I had to come and find the fairies in the village hall. Of course, I was airy fairy. He said, so it's you? And I was like, yeah, it's me. And the woman next to me was snorting, going, what's going to happen now? It's a bit weirdo coming here, you know. I was like, yeah, it's me. And then he was like, oh, hang on a second. And he's like, oh, yeah. Oh, right. I was like, who are you talking to? And he goes, oh, my spirit guide, Rosie. And I was like, oh my God, this has gone really weird now. This is what is happening. And he asked me why I had closed the door on Robert. Now,
just came out with it. Literally just came out with his name and everything.
Yeah, he said, Rosie said, why did you close the door on Robert? No, I didn't tell anyone because I was so freaked out about the whole meditation session and her telling me it was wrong. I brought through someone dangerous and I was freaked. I didn't tell anyone. Just didn't tell anyone about it. I just pretended it didn't happen. And yeah, he was like, why did you close the door on Robert? And I was like, and he goes, don't close the door on Robert. He said, go back up there, open the door because he's there to help you. And he said, like, you need to go here, you need to go there, you need to speak to this one. Right, I've got to go now, bye. This is weird.
Wow.
Really weird. And again, I went to a spiritual church, which you recommended. I told them what I experienced. Again, they said, no, that can't be right. It shouldn't happen like that. And so all the way through my path, weird and wonderful things were happening, but people were telling me, no, that's not right. No, you're lying. No, you're making it up. No, that's, you know, it can't be, because they hadn't had it like that. So I thought, sod it, I'm going to do it on my own. So I started doing my cards and doing my own little thing. And again, went back in the woods, whereas not telling anybody else what I was doing, and just quietly went on my way. But doing that, I found people who wanted my help because they could see me, because I was like, right, we moved back to Swansea, dyed my hair purple. I was like, right, I'm going to do it. Sod it, I'm going to do it. I put my first post out there going, I'm doing card readings. If anyone want a card reading, let me know. Then started working in, had people coming over my house. Then I started having a little room in a salon, which then turned out to a little bigger room in a yoga studio. I put my prices up, met Claire, and she was like, you can do this. This is something you can definitely do. And now it's just grown. I am the happiest I've ever been in my life.
Well, that definitely comes across. Like how animated you are when you talk about it is infectious. It just feels, the smile on your face is infectious. It feels like it's, and the journey is mad. To just kind of round things off, because we're sort of coming towards the end now, is that it sounds very much like, you know, if the listeners have listened, like, have you been put in a box, you know, that isn't somebody else has created that box for you. If you don't fit in that box, it doesn't feel right, or you have a label that you're just like, fight against it. Would you agree with that? Fight against it, and also keep ploughing on. If you've got some dream, you've got a dream, you've got something you want to do, don't listen to
people who don't know who you are, even if you don't know who you are. And it wasn't just my parents, bless them, because they had life, it was hard for them, but it was the peers, it was the teachers, it was other kids in the estate, other people around me, in even my areas that now I work in. They were telling me, no, you're not this, you're not this, you're not this, you are this. keep on following your heart, keep on following your passions. You know who you are, even if you don't know what that is just yet. Keep following it, keep working on you and doing things that light you up, even if it worries or scares other people, because if it comes from a heart-centered place, it's not a bad thing.
Yeah,
at all.
absolutely.
Not a bad thing
No.
at all.
We'll leave it there, but I definitely think, Claire, you need to make another appearance on Ellie Asks, and maybe just have a conversation about meditation, and because I think there's been quite a lot of listeners out there that, particularly in my Struggling with the Juggling group, who are struggling with the juggling of everything they need to do, and actually having some me time to listen to a podcast like us talking about this and things resonate, but actually to have some me time to go, I just need to stop, I want to do some meditation, I want to slow the world down a little bit to get those answers that they want.
Believing that life is a little magical. It's not all this doom and gloom. There is beauty out there. There is magic out there, and yeah, it's hugging a tree, guys. Hug a tree. It feels good.
What a line to finish on. Hug a tree. What a line. Thank you so much for joining me, Claire. Thank you.
You are welcome. Thank you for having me.
Listeners. Yeah, you're very welcome. Thank you for the listeners who are listening. And on my Facebook page, I'll put all Claire's Facebook and Instagram and all those sort of social media links on there. So if you want to go follow her. She's brilliant. It is magical. Thanks. Take care.